Kia ora and welcome to another video in this series aimed at teaching you Riftbound step by step, hopefully getting you confident enough for your first Nexus night. Today we're going to be revisiting Nasus, curator of the Sands, versing Jayce, which we haven't seen before, but Jayce, defender of tomorrow. There are two main reasons we're doing this. First, I really loved playing Nasus. I thought he was good fun, and he might be someone I look to pick up over Vendetta. The other reason is because, as it was pointed out to me, I cannot read. If we hover over Curator of the Sands here, you can see, one moment, there we go, that it actually says when you play a unit, gear, or activated abilities with an energy cost of 7 or more, you may exhaust me to ready up to 2 runes, not channel. That clarification does actually change things up quite a bit, and I kind of want to see how, with that adjustment, I prefer Nasus, because I did actually say at the end of the Nasus that a lot of these decks need to adjust for the high energy or power creation that he provides, so maybe readying instead of channeling will see it a bit more beneficial. Without further ado, I am going to choose these two as my chosen battlefield, being for Jayce, Orn's Forge, which we saw as part of Spirit Forge, and same with Sunken Temple. I just want to very quickly go over Jayce. So Jayce is the first blue-orange mind and body. He is a, from what I can see, a very gear-heavy legend, which has the ability and power for 2 energy, 2 power. You may exhaust him and pay 1 energy in order to ready a gear, but if he is empowered, you can use the same cost actually to ready 2 gear. And his chosen champion is Jayce, Brilliant Inventor. When you play me, or for the first time you play a non-token gear each turn, you may ready something besides me that is exhausted. I think that this is going to be a really fascinating combination where he obviously really wants to keep on doing certain things with gear, and I would really like to see how it goes into a deck such as Nasus, where big unit often equals bigger thing to deal with, really. And being a body deck, you often do have sometimes some really large units, but also some really strong ways to get over those units. But without further ado, let us begin with Nasus choosing to go first. A quick mulligan stage later. Yeah, I like both those hands, and we'll begin with Nasus. I won't be going over any of the new cards for Nasus unless they are actually new, but I believe we covered all of them in the previous video. However, in saying that, also because I did make the mistake of not reading Nasus, I do feel it may be fair in the event that I actually end up adjusting that video in the future by moving it or something like that. But first we have Steel Paws, 2 copies in our hand, and a Siphoning Strike. I really enjoyed these cards in the previous game of Nasus, but on the Jayce side we actually have a new card, a new gear, which is Questionable Tome. Now, Questionable Tome is a gear that says you may exhaust and pay 1 when it is empowered to draw 1 card. And to empower it, you have to exhaust it, but you can't stack exhaust, or you can't stack the empowering, so it's a draw engine essentially for every other turn for 1 energy. The other card that many people might not have seen is Heimerdinger. Now, Heimerdinger is a Origins champion that says, I have all the exhaust abilities of all friendly legends, units, and gear. It is worth noting that in combination with this, and the legend ability himself, Heimerdinger has some really, really strong capabilities. Keep in mind it says that he doesn't choose which legend, or a gear, or unit. He has all of them, which, yeah, makes him very fun sometimes. Without further ado, we are going to tap 2 runes, and we're going to play both Steel Paws out. And pass Nasus' turn onto Jayce, who is for 2 runes. No, we'll go 3 runes. Bring out a Seal of Insight by recycling the blue power, and then for 3, bring out the Heimerdinger exhausted. The alternative was either bringing out the Questionable Tome and immediately exhausting it, or playing Mobilize in order to go up to 4 runes immediately, and then 6 runes next turn, looking at a combination of double Heimerdinger or a Heimerdinger questionable tome. But I think the early play of the Heimerdinger is going to mean that we can get him empowered faster, which means that we can kind of start doing things a bit faster with this deck. That's what I'm seeing immediately, I should say. I could be completely wrong, and wouldn't be the first time. Anyway, we now move on to Nasus's turn. It is important to note that Siphoning Strike is only 2 units at a battlefield, so I cannot go and bonk the Heimerdinger. We are instead going to move Steel Paws #1 over to Sunken Temple and score 2-1 point because the Jayce is tapped out, he can't do anything about this, and we're going to do the same thing over here and tap 2-2. Now, why am I not afraid of the Heimerdinger now moving into this battlefield? Well, it's because Heimerdinger has his ability as an exhaust, which means if you really want to get the value out of Heimerdinger, you usually want to keep him in base. He acts very much so as a base-only unit, almost a gear in some ways. There are a few like that, such as Ezreal Prodigy, Gentle Gem Dragon, which are units that can move to battlefields, and sometimes it's in your best interest to, but at the same time their value is better kept safe. Gentle Gem Dragon isn't a great example. Herald of Scales is a better example from the Dragon kit. But for the last 4 runes, we're going to see that 2 of them are tapped to bring out a Scuttle Crab, which has when you play me, draw 1. And we draw into a Zhonya's Hourglass, and we will be tapping 2 to bring out that Zhonya's Hourglass, just to prevent the death of one of these if they do decide to swing in, or they have a spell in their hand that can kill one of their Steel Paws, because the Steel Paws, A, great right now, but B, become so much better when you get the empowerment off, which will happen not next turn, but the turn after. If we do it immediately, Nasus will pass their turn, it will move over to Jayce, and Jayce is going to be at 4 runes. They have drawn a new card. This is actually the only gear unit card. It is the only crossover between 2 different types, I guess you could say. I don't imagine we're going to get a crossover of a spell and unit or a spell and gear, because that doesn't feel correct. So this will be something that is going to maybe occur occasionally, but for the moment this is the first iteration, which is a 2 energy, 2 might that says I enter exhausted. Great they clarify that, because as we know, units always enter exhausted unless otherwise specified, and gear always comes in ready unless otherwise specified. And because this fits both categories, they have to specify which one is which one takes priority here. It has the ability, when you play me, if you control 3 or more other gear, draw 1. Now, can we get 3 other gear? We've got 1 here. We can play out the questionable tome, but that's all really we can do. So I'm actually thinking instead we're going to play out the Mobilize for 2 and channel 1 rune Exhausted, and that will resolve. And then we're going to tap the Heimerdinger, tap the Seal of Insight, and tap our last 2 runes in order to empower the Defender of Tomorrow. Keep in mind, we tapped the Heimerdinger because he can, much like the Seal of Insight, add blue power, which is very handy. The Defender of Tomorrow is now empowered, but he costs 1 energy to ready more gear, so that's all we can really do this turn. But that's okay. It is now the Nasus' turn. They go up to 4, and they are going to, with 6 runes to their name, not really have a lot of options, unfortunately. They are going to bring both of their units back. I wouldn't like to say it's a bricked hand, but it's really not feeling great. It is worth noting I did actually misplay just now. The Zhonya's Hourglass should have actually been only 1 rune because we controlled the Ornn's Forge, which means that we should have had an additional rune in case we needed to play Defy. So, slight oversight there. Ornn's Forge, you don't see it often unless you're playing usually against a gear-heavy deck, and it's something worth really considering as an ordering matter there. But I think the Nasus is just going to pass and say, hey look, I'm at 4 points, I've got some strong units, I'm going to empower one of them next turn and do a few fun things, but for now, let's just leave it as is. It is now the Jayce's turn. They drew Energy Conduit, which is actually an Origins card that barely anyone plays. I play it in Gutter Palace Jin, if you're familiar with the Hartford's Best of Jin. That is why I've recently played a bit with it. But An energy conduit is a 3 energy gear that has the ability to add energy. It comes in ready, so actually the turn you play it, it only technically is 2 energy because it creates an energy as its own. But for 3 energy, we'll be bringing out the energy conduit. Then for 3 energy and a seal of insight, we'll be bringing out the Heimerdinger Inventor. Then we are going to tap the last rune or to float 1 energy, and we'll signify that by putting a 1 red here. Then we're going to tap the energy itself to increase that to 2. And then we are going to tap the Heimerdinger Inventor, increasing that to 3, in order to play out the questionable tome, which comes in ready. And we will be, let's exhaust that to empower it. Exhaust it to empower. And sorry, we have used that 3 energy. The other thing I was really thinking of is that we could have tapped these 2 to create 2 energy and then use Jayce Defender of Tomorrow in order to ready 2 gear, being this and this, but I don't really see a point in the Seal of Insight, so I'd rather just not do more things for the sake of doing things and confuse everyone. I think that was very clear that we used the Heimerdinger, remaking the energy conduit, and the body rune and the energy conduit itself to make 3 to bring out the questionable tome, which comes in ready because it's a gear. And then we exhausted this to empower it, and then next turn we'll be able to disempower it and pay 1 energy to draw 1. It is now the end of the turn. We are now over to Nasus, who is at 8 runes. We are going to tap all 8 and recycle 1 to play Nasus Ascended, the chosen champion. And because we played a unit or gear or activated an ability with an energy cost of 7 more, we are going to exhaust the Curative Sands to ready 2 runes. With one of those runes, we are going to play Stupefy on the Heimerdinger, because that way we can draw 1. And we draw into another Defy. I was kind of hoping in some way that we would get something else, but beggars can't be choosers. We'll move the Scuttle Crab over to this battlefield, conquering to 5. And it's a bit of a misplay, because the Sonya's Hourglass means that this won't die, and if they decide to fight me now, which they kind of have to start doing, that is a bit of an issue. So I'm actually going to move this over here as well, because that way if they do move in, they do have to allocate, even though these technically have 0 might, you do technically have to allocate 1 damage to kill it, and it is very unlikely that they're going to move in with a 1 might unit to kill the Scuttleclab exclusively, and therefore it is better to move both of these units in, which means that I can choose who to save with the Zonya's Hourglass, and it will most likely be the Steel Paws. So that's why I've moved it in there. I'm now thinking whether or not I want to move the Steel Paws over to this battlefield, but I don't think I really want to just yet. I want to pause. I want to remind myself that if I scored a 6 next turn, I can actually empower him and go to 8 and win. As for the Jayce, they're in a bit of a bad position now, I must say. They are going to begin by paying 1 energy, exhausting the questionable tome, and de-empowering it to draw 1. Draw into immobilize. Okay. We are then going to see for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 an energy conduit and the Seal of Insight, Jayce Brilliant Inventor played to base. He has the ability when you play me, you may ready a non-token gear for the first time this turn, and we will ready the questionable tome, and then we are going to exhaust the questionable tome to empower it. Then we are going to tap 2 runes in order to play the Patched Porrobot. Because we have 3 or more gear, we get to draw 1. That's another gear. Okay. This one says this enters exhausted. Empower another gear. It becomes empowered if it's already not. So okay, so it's an alternative way empowering. We are then going to move the Heimerdinger into this battlefield. The opponent is going to have no response, and as such, the Scuttle Crab will die, and the Steel Paws will be saved by the Zonya's Hourglass dying instead. And the Jayce will go up to 1 point. They control the Orn's Forge, which means that gear is now going to cost 1 less. They're going to now tap the Heimerdinger in order to exhaust the Jayce Defender of Tomorrow, in order to ready 2 gear, and they're going to choose to ready the Energy Conduit and the Patched Porobot because it counts as a gear. And then it's going to move the Patched Porobot over to this battlefield, score to 2. Then they are going to exhaust the Energy Conduit and the Body Rune to bring out the Hextech Formula. Unfortunately, that comes unexhausted, so we can't do anything else. But I do think that's unfortunately game. We're going to see that the Nasus can move over to this battlefield, and definitely 8 might to 2 might kill the Patched Porobot, meaning that the Nasus scores up to 6. I forgot to empower it, but actually I still needed to a way to kill Heimerdinger. Siphoning Strike is the go, so for 1, 2, 3, 4, Siphoning Strike to kill the Heimerdinger. When this dies, channel 1 rune exhausted. I will do so now. Move over to this battlefield, score to 7. 5 runes remaining. We will pay 3 to play out a Find Your Center, channel 1 rune exhausted and draw 1. And with 2 runes remaining, we will pass. It is now the Jayce's turn. They actually do get another turn, which is very surprising. They're going to begin by tapping the Energy Conduit, tapping the Questionable Tome, disempowering the Questionable Tome to draw 1. They draw into Hextech Disc, empower on exhaust. Disempower this, pay 1 energy and exhaust it in order to play a 3-might mech token to your base. Okay, so it's a mech creation. That's nice to know. We've got to remember that the first time you play a non-token gear each turn, you may ready something that isn't him. The thing we're actually really lacking in this deck is a way to kill this unit. It has Deflect 2, so all things will cost an additional 2. But at the moment it would have to run in with both these units, the Heimerdinger and the Jayce, in order to kill this, but then would have no way of killing the Steel Paws. This is a concern. I think we're going to tap 4 runes, recycle 1 to bring out a Hextech Disc. Then we'll use the Jayce Legend ability in order to ready up the Energy Conduit. Then we're going to tap the Hextech Formula to empower the Hextech Disc. And then we're going to tap the Energy Conduit and exhaust the Hextech Sun Disc in order to play out a mech to base. Unfortunately, we can't ready it. Unless we did all of that somehow before doing the Jayce, but that was definitely not the way that was going to work. Our best bet now... Our best bet is to tap 1 rune and exhaust the Jayce Defender of Tomorrow in order to ready up the Hextech Formula and the Questionable Tome. Then we'll use the Hextech Formula in order to empower the Questionable Tome, exhaust the Questionable Tome, pay 1 energy, and disempower in order to draw 1. Damn it. What I was looking for is hoping for another Jayce Brilliant Inventor, because then we could play him in order to ready the Hextech, the mech. However, on hindsight, we wouldn't have had enough. Oh no, we could have tapped the Heimerdinger then, because then we would. Oh no, but then we would have had to. Oh, this was no, it was unfortunately, I think, dead from get gone. Let's see, what's the next card? Okay, oh, I see. So this deck really relies on Orn Forge God, which really the main thing about him is you get +1 might for each friendly gear. So right now we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he'd be up to 9. That's how we're getting above the bigger units. Okay. Okay. Well, unfortunately for us, the Jayce has lost. Let us move on to Game 2. This deck does not have a side deck for the Jayce. And so to keep things fair, we will not side deck on the Nasus either. The Jayce is going to choose to go first. And they will choose to go first, and now we'll go to the mulligan stage. Okay, cool. So we're actually gonna keep that. We're gonna mulligan 1. Okay, so we're seeing the signature spell for Jayce. Acceleration Gate, ready up to 4 units, gear and or runes, which is pretty cool, would have been really handy last game. And we see the Ornn in the opening hand. Now we don't get a 2-drop, so we're hoping for a 2-drop on the beginning. And the Nasus is going to mulligan 1 and open with 2 Steel Paws, a Discipline, and a Vile Maw. We mulliganed the other Discipline. It was 2 Steel Paws and 2 Disciplines, and that felt a little intense. For the Jayce, they're going to have to pass their turn 1, and as for the Nasus, they're going to tap 2 to bring out both Steel Paws and pass. The Jayce, oh, they see a new card. Gear. Tools of Empire. Empower for 2 energy. Cannot be empowered multiple times. Exhaust. Give a unit +2. If it's empowered, give it +4 instead. That's pretty strong. I like that. We are instead going to open with a tap 3, recycle 1 blue, bring out a Seal of Insight, then bring out the Heimerdinger and pass. A lot of things, but it's okay, we're getting there. Kind of the same setup as last time. Next turn we'll look at going to 5 runes, we can bring out a Questionable Tome, we can empower the Jayce Defender of Tomorrow, and move on from there. The Nasus is going to move their Steel Paws over to Piltover Forge, which is a new battlefield from Vendetta. While you control this battlefield, the first friendly gear activated ability played each turn costs 1 less. This would be really strong for if you had something such as this. No, where is it? This. Because it does not have a minimum, this becomes a free draw, but only the first time. And if you had some things that required more, that just reduces the cost. This does actually count as an activated ability. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. Empowering, I don't believe, is an activated ability. I think you cannot respond to empowering. We don't know much about Empower at this stage, we just know it's a thing. But from my understanding, it would be much the same as a seal, which cannot be a reactable resource, but we'll see. We will see. It is the Nasus' turn, and for 5 runes they've conquered once, they're going to tap 2 to bring out a Zhonya's Hourglass and pass. They're going to keep the Discipline and the Defy in hand just in case. It is now the Jayce's turn. They're going to... oh, they drew an Energy Conduit, which actually does change up the play. So we're going to begin by tapping 3 runes to play out that Energy Conduit. And then we're going to tap the Energy Conduit, the Heimerdinger, and the Seal of Insight, because keep in mind the Heimerdinger is copying both the Seal of Insight and the Energy Conduit, which means these 3 cards alone create the required resources to empower the Jayce Defender of Tomorrow, and that is what's going to happen. Then for 1 rune, they're going to use the Jayce Defender of Tomorrow to ready 2 gear, sorry. And they are going to ready up the Energy Conduit, the Seal of Insight for fun. But unfortunately, that's the end of the chain. I kind of keep on thinking that Heimerdinger is not gear himself, nor is classified as gear, so it makes things like that a little weaker in that respect. So they will pass. They'll still get a few things done, but we didn't get the Questionable Tome down, nor did we get the Tools of Empire. But we are working towards Ornn for next turn. Nasus scores to 2 points, because I forgot to give a point last turn. And for 4 runes, they are going to play Deadly Forest targeting the Heimerdinger. There is nothing that the Jayce can do, and the Heimerdinger will die, and the Nasus will receive a gold for his troubles. With 3 runes remaining, they will move the Steel Paws over to the Sigil of the Storm, conquer to 3, recycle 1 rune for the conquering of this battlefield, and pass. It is now the Jayce's turn. They're going to tap a Seal of Insight to bring out a Seal of Insight. They're going to tap 3 runes to bring out a question. Oh, actually, no, they're going to tap. No, they're going to tap 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the Energy Conduit to bring out an Ornn Forge God. he immediately goes +3 for 3 gear available. And then that is all she wrote, unfortunately. I feel like there's an ordering issue here. Let's just theory this for a second, actually. Let's back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 energy conduit. We have access to 7, 8 energy. We could play the Tools of Empire, and then Acceleration Gate, and then that'll be 7 there. Could we somehow cycle this multiple times to make it worth our while? Not really. The other option really is you just play Tools of the Empire, Questionable Tome this turn, but then you run the risk of running into the issue of last game where you start to really lose your tempo. No, we kind of need to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, bring out the Orn Forge God, and then just pass, unfortunately. It is the Nasus's turn. They're going to go to 5. They're going to tap 8 and the gold in order to play out the Nasus Ascended, readying 2 runes, exhausting Curator of the Sands. They're going to then bring back one of their Steel Paws and pass. It is now the Jayce's turn. That is going to be a 7. We are going to 1, 2, 3, 4 to bring out Tools of the Empire, bringing our Orn's Might to 8. We are then going to tap the 1 rune and the energy conduit in order to empower it. It isn't a reactionable ability, so that does mean that you are limited on what you can do on the opponent's turn in regards to plus might, especially in here as well. You can't respond easily. So for 3, we're going to bring out a Questionable Tome and exhaust it to empower it. Then we're going to tap 1 and the Jayce Defender of Tomorrow in order to ready the energy conduit and the Questionable Tome. And then we're going to pay using the energy conduit and the Questionable Tome to draw 1. We draw into the Hextech formula. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we're meant to be at 9. It's 9 might is greater than any might that we can currently see available to the Nasus. There is the Zhonya's Hourglass, however, which means that next turn the Nasus can move in with an empowered Steel Paws, so we know they have access to a minimum of 16 might next turn, and they can at most go to 7, which is less threatening. As such, the Jayce is in a really awkward position where he has to pass and the Nasus goes to 6. The Nasus does, however, see the Orn, and they have a Vilemore in hand, but the Vilemore no longer has the might required to prevent damage, and instead I'm thinking we'll play the Astral Heron, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, to this battlefield, exhaust their Nasus to ready up 2 runes. Because technically it was its own first card, it's not there to see the actual first card played, so we cannot benefit from the +2 and the 2 energy 2 runes here. We're going to move the Nasus to this battlefield, bring the Steel Paws back. That way, yes, one of these may die, but it's saved by the Zhonyas. And between the 2 of them, honestly, I'm almost tempted to keep the Nasus over the... It makes more sense, like the Nasus over the Astral, but I'm thinking the Astral Heron's really good because of the reduction in energy and might. And then move the Steel Paws over to here to threaten to 7, so they have to cover both battlefields next turn. Yeah? Do we know if they have any acceleratable? Yeah, they have a few ways to accelerate units, which is things such as they don't know it, but the acceleration gate is an accelerant. They could then play Jayce, which would be exactly 9 runes recycled 2, in order to ready, bring the Ornn in, play the Jayce, ready, bring it back out, and it won't live against this 15 might, but if it did somehow live against this 15 might, bring it back out, and then use Acceleration Gate to bring it over here. So there is a way for us to bounce to both battlefields, and as such, we're going to pass on the Nasus. It is now the Jayce's turn. Begin by exhausting the questionable tome. It's a really awkward position for this Jayce to be in. I think that this is a mixture of this Jayce deck isn't the best. I am unfamiliar with what Jayce wants to do, but I also think that the person who made this deck, good on them. They are taking the opportunity to pre-Vendetta release, just see what's out and about. The unfortunate reality for us, though, is that I'm a little hesitant to say that it's doing what it needs to do without, like, it's relying too much on Ornn being big, I suppose, is what I'm saying. Because they'll hold to 7 next turn. We can definitely move into this battlefield with less fear, I would imagine. I think that's what... Tap 2. Play out a Hextech formula. Ornn goes to 10. Move to this battlefield. Conquer, recycle 1 rune. Then for 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The Energy Conduit for 6 and the Seal of Insight. Play out Jayce. He is played. You may ready something. I'm going to ready the Hextech formula. Then for Then for 1, and exhausting the Jayce, we're going to ready the Questionable Tome and the Energy Conduit. Then we're going to use the Energy Conduit and then exhaust and recycle the Empowerment on the Questionable Tome to draw 1. And then, okay, cool, we've drawn a patched robot. Does that change anything? Not really. I'm then going to use the Hextech formula to empower the Questionable Tome. I'm just trying to think if there's math that can actually let me play out another Ornn this turn. I don't think there is. We've played and done that. We would need access to 3 more runes, and the Jayce has a net positive of 1. Signature ability, that is. Net positive of 1. We were so close as well, because this would have given +4, which made this 14. But I think we'll play the patched robot. Draw 1 for having met the requirements of the patched robot. That'll go to 11 on the Ornn. Now, what was I just about to... Oh, yes. It's just this turn. Oh, good. I was going to say, if it's more than a turn, that is insanely terrifying. And I think we'll just have to pass. The Nasus will score to 7. They don't have a way to get over... Well, they do, but it's... Actually, no, they don't. So, my thinking was Vilemore for 8, and Steel Paws move in, bring up the Vilemore, and then a Discipline, but that'll put us at 10 energy here, and a 10 might as well, but we don't have access to a second Discipline, and I know I recycled one, mulliganed one, so there's only one more potentially in the deck. So we actually are better off putting ourselves in a hold position. I mean, we play up the Scuttle Crab to the base, draw 1, we'll see it's not what we need it to be, it's a Deadly Flourish. and there is nothing in base that is killable except for actually the patched Porobot. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll kill the patched Porobot, and the patched Porobot will now die, reducing the Orn's might by 10. So that would have been good if we had a Deadly Flourish in hand to begin with. Only 2 things in trash actually. Deadly Flourish, which is very funny. Oh, we missed the Astral Heron proc as well, because the only card that we've played this turn is the Scuttle Crab, and that would have technically been free, which means we should still be at 8 might, but 8 energy. But I don't think it changes anything, and as such, we are instead going to pass. I'm going to say, hey, look, we hold, we don't. The Jayce will score to 2. They are looking down the barrel of 15 might. I'm just going to put that as a number here. 15, not 156 and not 1. 15 might on this part of the battlefield. 7 plus 8 plus 0. And they have access to 6 here, and 10 here, and 4 here. So they have access to 10 in base, and 10 here. They have also drawn a Plaza Guardian, which costs 1 for each one less for each gear you control, and currently we control 6 gear, so it's actually a 4 energy, 8 might. That's wonderful statistics. I'm actually going to tap 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to bring out an Orn Forge God to this to the base. The first time we play it, we may ready something that is besides something that is exhausted. We ready the Orn. We then have to increase the Orn's might appropriately. That's a really interesting mechanic, actually. Oh, sorry, we didn't play gear, so it's actually still exhausted. That's on me. I was thinking ahead of myself, because now we can actually play out the Hextech formula. But I'm thinking Hextech formula, acceleration gate. Actually, we don't need the acceleration gate anymore. Hextech formula will ready the Orn. It'll also increase the might by 1, so it'll be 11 plus 4, 15. Swing in with the Jayce as well, bringing it to 21, which is probably a lot more than the Nasus can deal with. We will lose, unfortunately, probably the Orn between the two of them. I don't imagine they're going to focus killing the Jayce over the Orn. Yeah, no, that's a good play. So, we are going to tap 2 to bring out a Hextech formula. We are then going to, because we played our first non-token gear this turn, ready something else. That'll be the Orn. Both the Orns get +1 might. And then we're going to move... before we move, we're going to exhaust the Tools of the Empire to give the Orn an additional 1, 2, 3, 4, and then move the Orn and the Jayce over to this battlefield. A showdown has occurred. Technically, we haven't actually paid for any of these, so we don't have to worry about once we control it. It is now the Nasus's, the Jayce is going to pass priority because there's nothing they can do at reaction or action speed. And the Nasus is going to say, no, I'm going to firstly tap 2 and empower my Nasus to 10 and draw 1. Draw into a White Flame Protector. Very, very nice. But unfortunately, that is all that is written. The Astral Heron will die, the Nasus will go back to base exhausted and replaced with his Zonyas, and the Scuttle Crab will die, allowing the Nasus to see the Jayce's hand, but they can't do anything else besides that. The Orn will die, the Jayce will score to 3 for the turn, and they now control the battlefield Piltover Forge, which says every activated ability, or the first activated ability, is going to cost 1 less, and so we're going to now exhaust the Questionable Tome using the 1 energy less to make it a free and draw 1. We draw into Hextech Disc, and we remind ourselves that the Jayce has to only hold one of these battlefields. They have to hold 1, because the Nasus, Orn is the same colours, the Nasus has to conquer both to win or hold one. Because of that, let me just do a quick count. We're looking at 7. So this is going to be 3 might, or 3 energy. And so we're going to tap the energy conduit and 2 runes to play the Plaza Guardian to that battlefield. Pretty handy. We could play it to the other battlefield to evenly separate the might, but at this moment we're kind of accepting the fact that we might lose this battlefield, and 14 here is much weaker than 19 over here, especially seeing as though the Nasus is an 8 by himself, and this would be 15, so it'd be these two would be able to conquer this, but these two cannot conquer this, but one of these can conquer this, so we're kind of just forcing them to allocate their resources poorly for a turn. That is probably a misplay, and if I was to sit down and think about it for a bit longer, I might come to a different conclusion, but that's the fun of the game. You're wrong all the time, is what I'm saying is the fun of the game. We're going to tap the Hextech formula to empower the questionable tome. Then we are going to tap 1 in order to play and the Jayce, Defender of Tomorrow, to bring back the questionable tome and the energy conduit, and then use those two in order to draw another card. Oh! Bottled Constellation. At the start of your main phase, you may kill 3 other friendly units and or gear to score 1 point. That's pretty terrifying. I've actually seen this card, but I came to the conclusion that it was a very expensive card, being 10 energy, for such a trigger. But my initial assumption was actually it would be kind of good in a deck like Lilia, because Lilia has a lot of not questionable, sacrificable units by way of sprites. But that's really fascinating to see in this deck. I haven't looked at the deck list often, or much, so I really should do that more often. It is now the Nasus' turn. They look at the points and go, well, Jayce has got to score 2-5 if I do nothing this turn. Do I really care? Well, there's an oversight actually, and I wonder if you've seen it too, but for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we are now going to empower the Nasus, and that will exhaust and ready 2 runes. And then we're going to move our empowered Nasus over to this battlefield, in which there is nothing that the poor Jayce can do, and they will be discarded. Now, this is a massive misplay by me. I should have, in fact, played the Plaza Guardian over to this battlefield in consideration of the fact that, no, the Nasus has the conquer ability of score a point on conquer, which subverts the usual requirements. And so that's an oversight. That is actually something that would usually, you can see on the board, because people just forget. But if we were to make the assumption instead that, like, let's say we did move this over here, and I've just empowered him this turn, is there still a way to win? Not really. No, not really. And so for the purpose of just making this a bit more interesting, that's what I'm going to say what's happened. I'm going to say, nope, that was the order that was originally chosen. And tap 1 rune to play out another Steel Pause, and pass. And it'll be the Jayce. They score 2-5 for holding 2. They are going to begin by tapping 3 to play out a questionable tome, and then they'll use the Jayce ability to ready it. Then they're going to tap both of their Hextech formula to empower both questionable tomes. Then they're going to exhaust one. There we go. And the energy conduit in order to draw 2 cards from that ability. Then tap 2 to play out a mobilize and draw 1 because we're full of runes. Tap 3 in order to play out an energy conduit. use the energy conduit and the Jayce in order to ready both energy conduits. Then for 3, we are going to exhaust all 3 and the Seal of Insight in order to play out Acceleration Gate and ready the 4 cards in the center here, the 2 questionable tomes and the 2 Hextech Formula. Exhaust both energy conduits in order to and empower both of the questionable tomes, and then exhaust both of the empowered questionable tomes. I'm skipping a step here, but essentially the cycle is empower the questionable tome and then use the energy conduit in order to pay for the cost of this. And so we are now drawing 2 more cards. I have access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 gear. So the Orn is now a 13. I have misplayed here. I technically should have kept 1 rune around just to Plaza Guardian for onto this battlefield to make it bigger as well. But I do think that there is there was very little that was actually going to stop the Nasus this turn from doing what he wanted to do. Because now for 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, recycle 2, not the blue, to green. We're going to play a White Flame Protector, giving the Nasus +8 this turn, putting him up to 16, and ready 2 runes by way of Curator of the Sands. And then we're going to move a 16 might unit over to this battlefield. There is nothing the Jayce can do, and they will lose both of these units, and the Nasus will conquer and score a point for his conquered Empower and ability. So, while it may have made a difference in respect of being able to bring in a Plaza Guardian to this battlefield, in the grand scheme, the weakness was on both battlefields now. It was, the question became really, can I get enough to hide my body from the Nasus, or can I kill the Nasus? But the alternative in that respect was, on here, if the Nasus wasn't empowered, that's not the Nasus, if the Nasus wasn't empowered, and he was just an 8, well, instead of moving in the Nasus, you would instead move in one of your Steel Paws, and kill, and trade 7 to 6. And then the Nasus would be able to move in to this battlefield and trade, or even just go, hey look, I'm going to pause. But I'm just thinking, no, there's not real much reason as to much way for the Jayce to have won here. I'm sure I've made a misstep on the ordering here. I'm sure that there is... I just want to see what's in the rest of this Jayce's deck, honestly. It's very exciting, but I do see... oh, okay, so it's the same things over and over. You've got 3 Heimerdingers that would have been really nice to see. They're actually the next 2 cards to come up. 2 Bottled Constellations, 3 Hextech Discs, 1 Unchecked Power, 3 Orns. Okay. Yeah, we did kill an Orn. I'm looking at this deck and going, it really likes... Yeah, obviously. Go me. But what I'm thinking is, it likes it a bit too much. And it needs to utilize the orange capacity of the deck a lot more often. Because if we actually look at... If we look at the spread across this, that's a bare minimum orange spell. This is a signature unit, a signature spell. Same thing. Same thing. There are in 1 orange gear. So, and the 3 sun discs. So I think the main issue with this is the deck is really cool, but I don't think it's correctly balanced for anything besides just a really fun deck where there's a lot of opportunity. But that was a complete 2-0 smash. And with that in mind, I hope this has been a bit more informative on the Nasus side, a bit more correct, I should say. And for the Jayce, I think that he's got a lot of opportunity to do really well. but I think that only time will tell, and maybe a revisit of Jayce in the future with a different deck that combines the orange and the blue a bit more effectively would be really interesting. Anyway, that is everything from me, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.